Hi, I'm Mena Suvari, and you're listening to the Horror Squad podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, episode number 250. Happy Halloween, everyone. Tonight, we are going to be reviewing The Curse of Bridge Hollow, currently streaming over on Netflix, and Hellraiser, which is currently streaming over on Hulu. We are Toddless tonight. Unfortunately, he's feeling a little under the weather, so tonight I am here with Steve. What's up, Steve?
What's going on, Joe? It's crazy. I know it's been a crazy few days. So sorry that Todd can't come, but I totally get it. I mean, he had crazy flights and a jam-packed weekend to deal with. So rest easy, Todd, and look forward to having you back next week.
Definitely. Let's just go get right into it, because I'm sure we have a lot of new listeners, thanks to Steve, because he was giving the spiel all weekend, that are maybe listening for the first or second time. Thanks for sticking along if you listen to some back episodes and are back with this. But everyone, I'm sure, is very excited to hear about our big event with Omri Katz. So, Steve, why don't you give us a little breakdown of it, and then I'll give my thoughts too.
It was the most surreal weekend of my life. It was one day basically of just, we started I left the hotel at 7:30 in the morning and got back to the hotel at 1:30 in the morning, and there was basically no break in any of that. It was just a crazy weekend. So what we're referring to, of course, is that we invited Omri Katz, Max Dennison from Hocus Pocus, to Salem for a few events. So what we did is we started and brought him to the Hocus Pocus locations, including his old house, the Allison's house. We had the town hall and the school are the four locations that we brought him to that are all within kind of mostly walking distance from Salem. I mean, his house is a little bit further, but still, within a few minutes of each other. So that was really awesome. It's funny, the first two locations, no one recognized him. We kind of went in there incognito. People were actually waiting for pictures to take pictures of the houses, not knowing that he was like standing right in front of the house. They're kind of just waiting as if he's just someone else taking a picture of the house. So I feel bad for them a little bit, but we didn't want to cause anything. So, but by the third location, the town hall, he got spotted. And that's when we got followed by paparazzi. It was this whole thing, but we're going to have some great pictures and an article on Bloody Disgusting to discuss all that. And then we had our signing at Silver Moon Comics, which was where I met a lot of the listeners. And because if you're wondering which one I was, if you were at the event, I was the one standing at the front of the door, probably pitching you on this podcast and kind of asking questions and chilling with everyone. And yeah, it was amazing. Omri signed for like 7 hours straight, and it was nonstop. The line was never like stopping. It was insane. It just, so many people came out, and that was an amazing experience. And then finally, we had a screening. We screened Hocus Pocus 2 at Cinema Salem. We had some amazing food from the crypt, and then we had a little bit of a Q&A. So that's
Hocus Pocus 1, you mean?
Did I say 2?
Yeah, you said Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Maybe you meant Hocus Pocus 2 TOO.
Yeah, that's what I
meant. It sounded like the sequel.
No, the original Hocus Pocus, the better one of the two. And and then we had a little bit Q&A with Omri, and that was kind of the event. We did some stuff with Omri separately, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit later. But what do you think of the event and all the events that happened during that day and that weekend?
Wow. That's all. I mean, wow is the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm just like absolutely blown away. When you plan something like this, you just never really know how it's going to go. Is it going to go great? Is it going to go terrible? Is something bad going to happen? Is anyone going to show up? You have no idea. I had a good feeling it was going to be a pretty successful event just by the sheer popularity of Hocus Pocus and it being in Salem. But there's still, did we do enough to promote it? You just never know, because we're not like a huge publication or anything like that. So trying to spread the word out there is literally just us jumping. I literally joined like every single Hocus Pocus group I could, every single Salem tourist group I could. And I'm like, hung posters all around Salem and stuff. And I'm like, hopefully this is enough. And, I got to say, people answered the bell. Hocus Pocus fans, apps, and our listeners really answered the bell. And, we can't thank you guys enough because it was an absolute amazing success. The amount of people that showed up at Silver Moon, and just shout out to everyone who helped us. Obviously Steve and Todd for coming out and helping, but Steve was great in keeping the line in control in the front. And then we had actually one of my old neighbors, Megan, shout out to her. She helped with the back of the line control. And then Alex from Bloody Disgusting and Broke Car fan for, he was just supposed to be there to take photos at the beginning and then see us after the screening. He stuck around for the entire event, helped take pictures, and just, helped make sure the event was running smooth too. So huge shout out to him. And then shout out to our new friend, JR from Steve. Do you know the name of his podcast by chance?
Yeah, it's the Ewing Barbecue podcast, which is a Dallas inspired podcast. So that's Josh. Yeah, amazing dude. And so happy you got to meet him. He came with Omri to the event as someone that Omri knew previously, and he stayed and helped us so much. And the feedback I got is like, man, he was so nice. He helped us get our picture. So huge shout out to him and Alex. Like you said, just both amazing helps and unexpected help. So that was
right.
Fantastic and great guys. So thank you very much.
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, like I said, we opened up the line. The sign was supposed to be from 1 to 5. We ended up opening the line at 11:30 because the line was already huge, and it literally did not stop until 5 o'clock, where we had to actually cut the line. And we even let a few extra people in who were kind of like hanging around, hoping they could get something at the end. And we even let them in and stuff. But that's all thanks to Omri, because he was one of the best people we could have hosted. He was so cool, so down to earth, so chill. We went out to dinner with him after, had a great conversations with him and stuff. And just quite possibly one of the best weekends we've had with this podcast. Definitely and I'm just still kind of in shock and awe of how perfectly amazing it went. Like, just because nothing went wrong, it was really just everything just went perfectly. And I'm just so ecstatic and happy. And I hope, this opens the doors to us getting some other events in the future with other guests and stuff like that. So yeah, once again, just thank you to everyone that helped us. I have to thank, of course, the Crypt, who really helped us put this together, as well as Silver Moon Comics, Cinema Salem, and of course, Sam from Halloween Happy. But yeah, thank you to all of them. We couldn't have done it without any of you guys. It was just an absolutely amazing weekend.
Yeah, and I met a lot of people in the line just over the weekend and stuff. And you do this show and you record every Monday, release on Friday. I edit for God's like 5, 6 to 8 hours a week on it, and you kind of forget like that people actually listen to what you're doing. It kind of gets lost on you after a while because you're just basically like a machine that keeps going and going. And the amount of people that came up to me and said that they're listeners, that they love the podcast and they love this episode and that interview. And it was just, man, I didn't know what to say. I was so like thankful. It's crazy. So thank you everyone who came up to me and high-fived me and shook my hand. And even those who are new to the podcast, like that took our little flyer and said they're going to listen. And yeah, it's overwhelming. And I'm so thankful for all of you. So thank you very much. It was amazing weekend. And Omri, like Joe said, just the coolest person ever. So chill, willing to do everything. It's just, and then we got to chill with him, kind of one-on-one after, and that was awesome. Because we got to talk to him as a person, just about life, and it wasn't like an interview. It was like really just talking to him, and then it was amazing. One of the best weekends of my life, absolutely, easily.
Definitely. And I have to shout out Steve's wife as well, because she was an absolute amazing person, helped, all weekend and stuff like that. So shout out to her as well.
And also just, kind of a personal shout out to Melissa and Weezerface, two listeners that have been listening for a long time. We talked to them on the Discord all the time. We got to meet him. Me for the first time, I got to meet both of them. I know Joe had met Melissa before. So just, yeah, it was great meeting you, and can't wait to meet more people in Texas next year. So that'll be awesome as well. That's probably the next Horror Squad thing that we're doing. We're not hosting a signing or anything. We're just all hanging out at Texas Frightmare weekend in May of 2023. So yeah, that's going to be a fun time as well.
That's right. I'm officially going to call it the official Horror Squad podcast meetup. So listeners, the whole squad will be there as well. So if you want to come hang out with the whole squad and fellow listeners, please come down to Texas Frightmare Weekend this coming May. It is Memorial Day weekend. I don't have the exact dates right now, but I believe it's like the 26th through the 28th. Just look up Memorial Day weekend next year, and we will all be there. They've already announced John Carpenter, John Kassir. They're doing a sleepaway camp reunion, and there's a bunch of more guests that are going to be announced. So that's going to be, I guess, our next quote unquote event, maybe unofficial event, but we're all going to be there hanging out, and I cannot wait to meet all the listeners and once again hang out with Steve and Todd and Sam. So it's going to be just another amazing time. And stay tuned, because I think we have some other big events coming up, definitely next October, hopefully, for sure, but hope maybe some other things, maybe a convention or something like that in the near future where we'll have a table set up. So just once again, always just follow us on our social medias and listen to the show, and we'll keep you up to date with everything. That's really about it for the event. It was amazing, and I'm still kind of foggy, hazy brain from the whole weekend, but also on cloud 9 for just how incredibly amazing it was. And wow, just thank you, everyone. We blew through so many stickers and magnets and everything. It was like, my God, we're gonna have to order more now for our next thing, because I barely have any left, which is amazing. Because I think we had over 400 or 500 stickers and magnets, and we went through. People were just grabbing them, snagging them. They loved them. So thank you so much for grabbing all of our stuff too, and people who grabbed our exclusive Hocus Pocus prints for the event and stuff like that. That's awesome. I did get Omri to sign a couple extra, so we are going to be doing a giveaway. We got to figure that out soon, but probably within the next week or two over on our social media, we'll be doing a little giveaway, signed Hocus Pocus print as well. So that's going to be very exciting. So yeah, Steve, why don't we get into some questions?
Yeah, I just want to mention one last thing before we get to questions. Episode 250. That's crazy to me that we're already at episode 250. And just to kind of cap off the event, this was the first time that the full squad was together in person.
That's right.
I'd never met Todd in person ever before. Joe very briefly in Texas, 7 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, anyway, a long time ago. So it was crazy, just to have full squad. And it's like we had known each other for a super long time, though. It didn't feel like I was meeting anyone for the first time. So that was an amazing experience as well. And it actually occurred to me that I've met, including Sam, all 3 other squad members on the exact same spot. All 3 of them, for the first time that I saw them in person, I was in Joe's parking lot, standing, watching them wave for me from their balcony.
That's right.
It's weird. It's I guess it's just a thing. So yeah, it was awesome. So meeting Todd, getting to see Joe and Sam again, of course. So awesome weekend. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so let's get into questions. So you can ask us those questions on social media at the Horror Squad Podcast or on our Discord. Our Discord, absolutely free. It's where we get to really hang out with a lot of our listeners. And every month we do a live hangout where we review a film in our what we call our movie club. And in fact, the movie club for this month is this Friday. So the day that this episode comes out, we will be reviewing Hellfest. So the way it works is we just at 9 p.m. Eastern time, I send out a link on our Discord for Zoom, and everyone gets on. We talk about the movie that we're reviewing, and then we hang out for a few hours, just shooting the breeze and talking about horror and Halloween this time, because there's a lot of stuff. Of course, it's the season. So if you want to join our Discord, just send us a message and we will send you the link. Like I said, absolutely free, and it's a great people in there. So I highly recommend it. So our first question is an audio question. Comes to us from Chuck. So Chuck, what is your first question?
Well, hello everyone. It's me, Chuck, aka Captain Amazing 85 from the Discord. Just here to let you know that I'm going to be in Irving, Texas, May 26th through the 29th at the Irving Convention Center. I'm going to be getting some autographs and meeting other horror fans and whatnot. And after that, maybe catch a special screening, a Q&A with the Horror Squad podcast. And don't miss it. Sorry, I really missed Omri's little thing there. His little bit. I miss it. But on to the questions for real. what was your favorite part of the event?
So thank you, Chuck, for that. I absolutely love what you did there, mimicking the Omri ad that we've been putting in for the last 2 months there. So yeah, I'm definitely going to miss putting that ad in it. But don't worry, Chuck. Deadly Grounds Coffee is back. It's back with a vengeance, and you will hear that ad at some point in this episode. So thank you for that. And as far as your question, my favorite part of the event was probably just hanging out with Omri at the end after everything was said and done, because we had that sense of satisfaction by that point. Like Joe said before, we were so worried about crowds. Are they going to be too big, out of control? Are they going to be too small? And we're going to feel bad that we brought Omri all that way. We really didn't know how it was going to go. So just seeing Omri's reaction to how well it went, and our own kind of just, okay, we can relax now, and just having, sharing a drink and a little bit of food with Omri, my wife, Sam, and Joe. Unfortunately, Todd had to leave because he had a super early flight, but that was probably the highlight for me, just kind of sitting back and taking it all in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a highlight. Definitely the one-on-one time just with Omri, just hearing his personal stories, of his life, and just like some behind the scenes stuff and stuff, most people probably don't know about him. It was super interesting. And definitely shout out to his company, the Merry Danksters. Go check it out. He's in the cannabis business now. He's a small business owner. He's really trying to get that up off the ground. So go and support Omri any way you can. You can follow him, Dankster Ohms, over on Instagram. So yeah, I know he's definitely, building on that. So we wish him nothing but the best and success on that. One of my other favorite things, honestly, was seeing everyone's reactions, like how, all the fan reactions coming, going through the lines, and just, everyone left with just a huge smile on their face. And I mean, that's a testament to Omri. He just, was giving everyone hugs and just, treating everyone so kindly. And I just loved seeing, there were people dressing up in character, there were, parents bringing their little kids dressed as Danny and stuff like that. I mean, there was some really great stuff. We're going to have some amazing photos too. Alex took so many photos for the event. So definitely keep an eye on our social medias. We'll be posting a whole bunch of stuff, but yeah, absolutely loved that as well. But yeah, being able to sit down with Omri, having lunch with him, I took him to and from the airport, and just the fact that he was happy, he was more than happy. I would say he was ecstatic with how the event went. He took a chance on us, and he even told us that, he kind of went rogue on this event. It wasn't something he would normally do, but he was like, screw it. I'm going to take a chance and see how these guys do it, and see, how Salem is and stuff. And it sounds like we exceeded his expectations and then some. So I'm just ecstatic for that. I mean, I can't believe it, and I'm so happy.
Yeah. And also meeting the listeners, it was probably another highlight for me, because I got to meet so many in that line. It was so cool just to
definitely
talk to people, and yeah, good times.
Yeah. One quick thing. I also want to shout out Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery here in Salem. They gave us a private little tour with Omri. They took us through the museum, which, I mean, if you ever come to Salem and you're a horror fan, Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery is the place to be. So shout out to them as well for taking us through. And Steve, his wife, and Todd unfortunately missed it, but we went back on Sunday and he took us into the Vault Macabre, which was super cool. So a lot of occult stuff, which I told you guys about in the Damien event, which was really cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That place is so amazing, just so freaking amazing. Absolute must see if you go to Salem. All right, Chuck, what is your second question?
And last question, since I had the stupid intro, what would be your wish if you finished the puzzle box? Thanks, guys. Look forward to the episode. Have a good one.
Oh man, I kind of forget all of the things right now. I know there's 7 different things in this new movie or something you could pick from.
Yeah, let's just say you just get a wish,
a wish in general,
like a genie. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, I'd probably just wish for. I think it's a pretty basic one and stuff. And I know people say money doesn't buy you happiness, but I kind of tend to think that's bullshit. I mean, because if I had a lot of money, I'd worry about a lot less things in my life, and I feel like I'd be pretty happy. I also don't think I'm the type of person that would go crazy. I don't need a ton of money, but just enough money for me to just live comfortably and not have to worry about bills and all the little things, in life that we unfortunately have to worry about.
Yeah, my wish is for Chuck's surgery to go well. He's having surgery on Halloween day of all friggin' days. So Chuck, that's my wish, buddy, for you to get well. Money would be nice too. If the Cenobites can throw that in, I wouldn't mind. Actually, so I had a 10-hour drive on the way back from Salem, and I the way I buy lottery tickets is off my phone, and it sends you an email when you win something, but it doesn't tell you how much you won, right? So while we were in Salem, we got a notification that we won something. It was the first time in like a month or 2 months that someone won the the jackpot. And I know it was in my province, so I wanted to check, is it me? Like obviously the odds are that it wasn't going to be me, but I couldn't check because you have to be in that province to be able to check. So the whole car ride back, my wife and I were discussing what we would do with, I think it was 70 million, just it'd be nice, there'd be a lot of things. These events would be a lot easier if we had disposable money. So, but Chuck surgery, 1, wealth, 2. So Chuck, thank you very much for the questions. We always appreciate your audio questions. Next one is from Zach from the Don't Be Crazy podcast. I recently discovered, I know I'm super late to the party, the VHS series. Holy shit, amazing. Of all the short segments from all the films, which are your favorites? Additionally, did any of them scare you?
Yeah, great series. Well, I wouldn't say great series. I mean, the first 2 really good, and then they start to go 3 and 4, whatever. But I'm excited to do 99. We're probably going to be doing that maybe next week, maybe the week after, something like that. It just came out, so very soon, I'm sure. But yeah, the ones that stick out, obviously, from part 1 is the one with Hannah Fierman there, the vampire Batgirl thing, whatever she is there. What does she say? I like you. I think I like you. Yeah,
I like you.
yeah.
That's so creepy.
I mean, that one, like that. I mean, I think that was like the first one in the whole series too. I think that opened the whole thing, and it was just like definitely saving the first for best on that one. That one's awesome. Also, I think maybe it's in VHS 2. It's like the cult one where they go to like some other country and they like get into a discover like this cult, and that one is really good, and that one actually has some pretty scary moments. So those 2 for sure are the ones that pop out right in my head.
Yeah, the one with Hannah Fierman is probably my favorite one. It's like you said, it's the first one, and the very first story in the first movie, and it really hits you hard. Like, it's a very good story. It's kind of shot found footage style, and she's so creepy. The way that she attaches to that guy and then becomes that creature, but is still attached to that guy. And I thought that was a really good one. Actually, one that I really enjoyed is from VHS 94. Right, that's the last one that came out. The one in the funeral home, I really enjoyed. So I just have a thing about funeral home horror for some reason. I always found funeral homes really creepy. I remember going to them as a kid and always being creeped out. The fact that there was a dead body in there, and it just, I don't know, it just never sat well with me. And I guess I've been multiple times over the years, and I always get that weird like feeling in my gut. So seeing funeral home horror also always like elevates it for me. And that one was a pretty creepy story. It was my favorite one from VHS 94, which I don't think is one of the best ones, but that particular story I thought was pretty cool. I'm happy you get to, you found this series, because I think there are some good ones, and I am psyched about VHS 99. I heard some pretty good stuff about it, so we'll definitely be reviewing that soon. Heading over to the Discord for the rest of the questions. First one is from Shaylin, Little 3-Chord Me. What is a TV show you loved that never had a Halloween special that you wish would have?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm going to say Seinfeld. Seinfeld never had a Halloween episode, and then like they had like 12 seasons, and Sam and I have been watching a lot of them lately, and I'm like, wow, they never had a Halloween special. So yeah, I think that would have been great.
Yeah, I had the same answer. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, and I guess I get why they never did a Halloween thing, because there's no kids involved in the show, and they don't seem like the type of people who would be into Halloween. But it would have been nice if they at least acknowledged that Halloween was a thing once. Still an amazing show. I mean, I don't hold anything against it, but yeah, it definitely would have been really cool to have a Halloween episode. A la Home Improvement and Roseanne, which I think are 2 of the best of the Halloween. That, and of course, The Simpsons, probably the goat of Halloween episodes with their Treehouse of Horror that's still going on to this day. So that's freaking crazy. So that's my answer as well.
Yeah, I heard the new one they covered like It for the
Yeah.
entire episode. So I'm excited to watch that one. I haven't seen it yet, but that's really cool. Also, a little off the cuff show, Freaks and Geeks, which only lasted one season, had an amazing Halloween episode. It's one of my favorite Halloween episodes of all time. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
God, that show really underrated and canceled way too soon.
Yeah. Well, when we had dinner with Omri, he had mentioned that he was in an episode, and I don't remember him in it at all. And then we went on to something else, and I completely forgot to go back and ask him like which episode it was. So now I got to go and find that episode and see him in it.
Absolutely. I have it on DVD, so I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, he did say that he was on that show, and God, that was a great show. All right. So Jackie asks us, I have a question about your event. When's the next one?
I don't know. Nothing like in the works right this minute. Obviously, probably next October, we'll definitely do at least one, maybe two events. That's kind of like our sweet spot. But we have some talks with our friends at the Crypt. It will probably once again be in Salem, maybe for sometime in the summer or something like that. So just, keep an eye on our socials. But like I said, Texas Frightmare Weekend will be kind of the unofficial Horror Squad, meetup type thing. So go and check that out.
Yeah, we have some ideas of what's going to happen next year, but it's way too early to like actually discuss any of them because I don't like to discuss things until they're actually like set in stone. But if our ideas come to fruition, it's going to blow your fucking mind. If I'm being honest, it's a lot bigger and it'll be a lot of fun. But for now, Texas Frightmare, and that's going to be cool because the thing with this event is that we really didn't have time to like actually sit down and chat with people. It was kind of like a really quick interactions in line. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people to manage. It's just a lot. Whereas in Texas Frightmare, you're really going to get a chance to just sit down with us, chill, and have fun. And so that's going to be the event if you really want to just hang out. But if you want to meet a celebrity and kind of do another thing like this, yeah, I think next summer, next October is probably when we're going to do that.
Yeah, I apologize to anyone that tried to have a conversation with me on Saturday because my mind was running in a million different directions. So I was like trying to listen to people, but I was also like thinking about a million other things. So if it seemed like I was kind of checked out, like it totally was not intentional, but I had so much on my mind. And I think, between the stress of the whole event and trying to make sure everything was going well and stuff. So yeah, Texas, I'll definitely be a lot more, I think, chill.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next question about Hellraiser. So we'll give a vague answer for now, but I'm sure we'll answer this in more detail once we review it. Where do you think it failed compared to the original, and in what ways do you think it excelled?
Yeah, good question. Without obviously, we're going to go more into depth later. So for now, I'll just say in the story.
Yeah, I'll say the way it failed a little bit compared to the original for me is everything outside of the Cenobite scenes. I thought was more interested in the original. And in the way that it excelled is I thought the Cenobite stuff was sometimes better than in the original. But that's all I'll say for now. We'll talk about more of that once we review the film. But thank you, Jackie, for the questions. Next one are from Cody, Odd Job versus 007. Now that you've all been in the same room together at the same time, what was everyone's drink of choice, or did everyone stay professional?
Ooh, we stayed professional, really. We didn't drink at all during the signing. The cinema, which shout out to Cinema Salem, they were very kind to offer us free drinks during the screening and stuff like that. So I just stuck to pumpkin beers, had a couple of those during the screening. But yeah, no, we kept it strictly professional for this event, which was awesome. And we really didn't even get into the Q&A, but thank you to everyone that asked questions during the Q&A too. We got a lot of great questions.
Yeah, so the only thing outside, we didn't drink at the event at all, really, other than one beer before the movie. But I did on Friday finally have, was it Narragansett? Is that what it's called? With Joe and Todd in our hotel room. But it was so late that we just basically drank like half a beer and went to bed. But yeah, that did happen. So that's probably the extent of our drinking. And I did have a couple pumpkin beers as well with Omri, Joe, Sam, and my wife. So yeah, so that's what we drank. Texas will be a different story. Unless they have weird alcohol laws. I don't know. I haven't checked yet. What's one thing everyone is looking forward to the next meeting? So the next time we all meet as a squad, he means not a next event.
I don't know, nothing in like particular, just hanging out more. Like, this was a very quick weekend. We really only got to spend some time together on Friday, which I took them around Salem a little bit. We went to the Ouija board museum, which was really cool. We went to some of the, sights and sounds of Salem. So doing all that was cool with them. But next time, especially like when we do Texas, obviously, like it's just gonna be cool because we'll actually have time to sit, chat, and chill. Like, we didn't chill at all this weekend, really. Like, it was just even like Friday when we were like going about the town pretty quick, and then by the time we sat down for dinner, everyone was just dead, from travel and stuff like that. So yeah, just being able to chill with them next time will be great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to, because like just said, we had no time. It was crazy. It was just go, go, go. But speaking of that Ouija museum, it's basically like one room with a bunch of Ouija boards on it. I was like, I don't know if this will be interesting. Then by the time I walked out of there, I thought, wow, that was probably one of the most interesting things I've done in years. There was a guy in there that was so fucking fascinating and knew everything about the history of the boards, and it was really, really interesting. So I highly recommend that place. What's the name of it, Jeff?
It's just called the Ouija board museum. It's in, God, I'm trying to remember what store it's in. I know it's next to a store called Why Not Wands, which is like a Harry Potter themed store. So basically it's between if you ever go to Salem, it's between Crowhaven Corner and that Why Not Wands store. I cannot remember the name of the store, but you'll see a sign for the Ouija board museum is in the back of that store. And the guy we talked to is actually the curator of that Ouija board museum. Those are all his personal collection, essentially. So he is super knowledgeable. Hopefully he's in there when you go to it, because otherwise, like Steve said, it's just a room of Ouija boards and it's maybe not as fascinating, but that guy knows his stuff and he is so knowledgeable. And yeah, he gave us like our own little tour and gave us like a bunch of awesome information. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cody's last question: did the event go smoothly, or will there be a different approach next time? So is there anything you would change about the event, Joe? Like, it didn't go super smoothly, but is there anything that you learned from this one that maybe you change for the next time?
That's a good question. Personally, I don't think so. Like, I feel like everything went pretty smooth and pretty well. Like, I can't think of anything. If we do it the same type of way as this, event on this scale, yeah, I mean, I don't, nothing that's really sticking in my head. I mean, maybe there were actually, we should have separated our event posters with the Omris in the beginning. That created a little bit of confusion. So I guess more just signage, I guess, to avoid confusion and stuff like that. But other than that, I thought it went pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's really minor things. I think I would have switched, because we did have our own event posters that we were selling, but a lot of people didn't have cash, so they were just basically charging a dollar. So it is what it is, and that's totally fine. It's just one of those things that we learned as we're going. So we never done anything of this scale before, and yeah, but nothing major. I think the weekend went really smooth. Maybe a little bit of a break between events, which we didn't have at all. It was just go, go, go. So maybe that is one thing I would try to schedule in. But other than that, it went way smoother than I expected. It was pretty crazy how well this event went. So yeah, awesome. Next question are from Patty. First of all, I like all the Hocus Pocus picture sets. So we have a bunch of really cool Hocus Pocus pictures, and that's just the beginning, because once Alex releases his pictures that he took, there's going to be some really incredible stuff. But she also asks, what are your thoughts of different way they did on Hellraiser? So just to, again, because we're going to review it, what are your quick thoughts on the differences between this Hellraiser and the original?
I'm going to wait. I'll wait until our review. So you people just wait. Just be patient and wait, and we'll get to it.
All right, sounds good. Next one is from Mondo. Scream 5 versus Halloween Ends. Which is the better film?
Ooh, man. I didn't like either of them. But, oh, man, this is tough. Because, like, I probably liked Scream 5 a little bit better. However, Halloween Ends took the risk, whereas Scream was just pretty much the same thing. I guess if you're asking me what movie actually tried to do something different and like was a little more unique, I guess I would go Halloween Ends. But which movie did I enjoy more? I guess Scream 5. But that's a great question.
I'm gonna go Scream 5 on this one. I think, I didn't love Scream 5, but it felt like a Scream movie. It gave us what we want out of a Scream movie. It gave us the return of the characters that we loved. It did, fan service that was recognizable. We had some cool kills with, Ghostface. It was a Scream movie, Now it wasn't a super successful Scream movie in my opinion, but it was still a Scream movie. Whereas Halloween Ends went too far off the path, I think. It was barely a Halloween movie. It was it looked more like another movie that slapped a Halloween name on it, because Michael Myers was such an afterthought in that one. So, and the more I think about it since we did our review, the more I hate it. So, for a lot of reasons, but yeah, so I'm gonna give Scream 5 the bump on this one, but definitely two of my most disappointing films of 2022, which I'm sure we'll discuss at the year-end show. Next one is from Patty again. What are you guys' plans for Halloween this coming week?
Ooh, yes. Well, I think the day we're recording this, or the day this releases on the 29th, Sam and I are going to check out the Salem Night Fair, which is hosted by Black Veil Tattoo, the guys who did my tattoos. It's like they do it at Pioneer Village where, the beginning of Hocus Pocus was filmed. And there's like a bunch of spooky, like horror vendors selling stuff. And they have like a bunch of people dressed up in costumes and stuff like that. So that should be really cool. I'll try to take some videos and stuff, and I'll post it up on our Instagram stories. I'm gonna try to like do more with our social media this year, especially like on Instagram with stories and stuff like that, because right now it's just kind of like just like our podcast stuff. So I'm gonna try to branch out and do some more interesting stuff on there. So definitely follow us on our Instagram and whatnot for that. Yeah, and then Saturday we're going to the big Halloween party at the Hawthorne Hotel in Salem. It's called, it's the annual Halloween ball. Sam and I go every year. It's the biggest Halloween party in town. So we're really excited for that. And then on Monday, of course, Halloween day, we are just going to be downtown in Salem. I will definitely take some videos and stuff on that and post it on our Instagram stories and whatnot. So you can see the chaos and craziness of Salem on Halloween.
Yeah, Salem this past weekend was freaking crazy. I can only imagine what it's like on Halloween. For me, it's all about just decorating my house as much as I can, and giving candy to kids. The traditional Halloween thing. Outside of that, it'll just be watching horror movies, carving pumpkins, that kind of stuff. So I usually reserve the Halloween weekend for classics. I've been watching a lot of 2022 films lately, but I'm taking this weekend off and watching some of the more recognizable horror films and stuff like that. So looking forward to that. Probably had the original Halloween, which is an annual tradition. I might watch Hubie Halloween, which is like a new tradition. I really, really love that one. It really gets me into the vibe and some other stuff. So looking forward to it. Always love Halloween. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, when we watched Hocus Pocus, well, that was like a surreal moment too, right? Because we sat next to Omri Katz, like while we were watching Hocus Pocus, so that was like an amazing experience in and of itself. And he was actually like, you heard him laughing or like doing some commentary during the movie at times, so that was really cool. But man, I gotta say, like after rewatching that, my rating for Hocus Pocus 2 goes like way down because I'm like, man, this movie is so much better than the second one. So my rating would go down now, folks, for those who listen to our Hocus Pocus 2 episode.
Me too. I actually discussed Hocus Pocus 2 with a lot of people online. It's one of the big things that we talked about with a lot of people. And yeah, I think it just makes no sense. Right from the beginning, the thing that makes the most sense is that in the first one, she does a musical number, I put a spell on you, but it makes sense that she would know that song because they're singing it right before, the skeleton guys are singing it. So she could have picked that up from there and just kind of riffed on it. Whereas one way or another, in the second one makes no sense. Like, where did they hear that song? There's absolutely no, it just, yeah. Anyway, I'll watch it again next year though, maybe with just a different perspective and everything, but definitely keeps going down in rating for me as well. So the next question is from Weezerface, who we met over the weekend, and she was awesome. What would you guys look like as Cenobites?
Wow, great question. I don't know. I tend to think I would maybe look like the Chatterer. Like I feel like that would be kind of my motif.
I'd probably look like the fat guy in Seven, you know, the one who eats the spaghetti, like with all the like stitches everywhere, and just yeah, that's probably what I would look like, but with a beard. He didn't have a beard. And final question: fuck, marry, kill. It's been a while since we had one of these. Ends edition, so Halloween ends. Corey, Frank, and Ronald. I don't even remember who Frank and
why can't I
Ronald
even think
are.
of Frank? I was gonna say, who the hell is Frank and Ronald? I'm gonna have to IMDb this one. I think
I'm doing it right now. Let's see. So we all know Corey, of course.
yes.
Will Patton is Frank, so he's an
okay.
officer. And where is Ronald? Is the dad? The dad who just wants his spaghetti and to watch action films in his garage.
Hell yeah, I'm marrying the dad for sure.
Yes.
Ronald, that dude was awesome. He was one of the best characters in the whole movie.
He was.
And then I guess I'm going to kill Corey because fuck him, fuck that character, basically much ruin the movie. And then I will fuck the cop there, whatever his name, Frank, is that his name?
Yeah.
There we go, with his nice little hairdo.
Right, exactly. Tell me about his cherry blossoms in Japan. Yeah, same thing for me. Absolutely same thing. But really the important one is that we're just marrying Ronald and watching action films in the garage, eating spaghetti, just living the life, So that's all the questions we got this week. Thank you everyone for the questions. We could not do this segment without you. And now, the big return, ladies and gentlemen. It's what you've been all waiting for. I know it's been months. You all miss it. It's finally here. An ad from Deadly Grounds Coffee.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds Coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds Coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Well, Steve, before we get into our next little segment here, which I forgot to remind everyone at the beginning of the episode, we actually have an interview attached to this episode. We had the joy of interviewing Kevin Lewis, who came back. Of course, we interviewed him previously for Willy's Wonderland. And now he's got his new movie coming out, which is The Accursed. And we were very excited to interview actress Mena Suvari as well, from, of course, American Beauty, American Pie fame, among other things. So we chatted with the both of them. We actually did it the Friday before our event. Steve and Todd were actually here, but I just interviewed them alone while they kind of watched. It was kind of a weird scenario, but we were on such a time crunch and whatnot. It was a great interview with the both of them. So make sure to hang around until the end of the episode to listen to that. But Steve, before we get into our little review of The Accursed, I have a question for you. What did you think of meeting my mom for the first time? Of course, Patty, who, is kind of become a little famous mini celebrity on the show. Of course, we had our ghost episode with her. Of course, my mom kind of has a gift to where she, can speak to the dead and whatnot. That is a super interesting episode. I even found out stuff about my mom that I never really asked her about and whatnot. I can't remember the episode number. It was a Lady in White episode. Do you know it, Steve?
I just remember it was a Lady in White episode. So
yeah, it was our Lady in White episode. So go back and listen to the interview with my mom on that, especially if you're into the paranormal. And anyway, it's actually the perfect episode to listen to for this time of the year for spooky season. So, but yeah, I don't even know if I personally introduced you. I don't think so, because it was such a crazy time when they came through. But I know you said, I think you talked to her for a little bit. So I just kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So your dad actually introduced me to your mom. He came and got me and just wanted to talk to me, and I spoke to both of them, and it was so cool to finally meet Patty. And we didn't talk about anything like that kind of stuff. I was just talking about how happy I was in Salem and the event and everything like that. But she did mention that she was very, very excited to come back on our show. So
nice.
I want that to happen, because I get DMs about that all the time. People love that episode and everything that she talked about. And she was so sweet. I really enjoyed meeting her, your dad, and the rest of your family. I also even met one of your friends the very one that you started that like
That's
horror
right,
group
the horror
way back
committee.
in the day.
Yep.
Was it Mike? Is that his name?
Mike, yeah, my buddy Mike. Yep.
Yeah, and that was really cool too. That because your dad also introduced me to him. So yeah, that's the one that Joey used to do the videos with. So yeah, that was really cool. It's awesome to see your family, and very excited and psyched that I got to meet Patty and talk to her for a little bit. So yeah, it was a good time, and I cannot wait to have her back. Like of all the guests we've had, Mena Suvari now, Kate Bosworth, Tony Todd, Omri Katz, and all these big names. And I don't only get, I get, DM from time to time, but the one I get the most by far is Patty. So we need her back, Joe. ASAP.
We'll get her back. She seems like she's ready to come back now. Maybe not as shy. And I actually, it'll be interesting to hear Todd next week when he talks about the event and stuff, because I know she kind of mentioned about his grandfather again, which like they had a little conversation, which I like kind of heard off the side of my ear while I was doing something else. So I'll be interested to hear what she had to say about Todd's grandfather, who she kind of felt his energy during our interview last time, but Todd kind of wasn't putting it together, I think, or something like that. So yeah, so you'll hear Todd's thoughts on that next week. But yeah, all right, so let's get into our movie. Our interview, of course, with Kevin Lewis and Mena Suvari was for the movie The Accursed. So Steve, do you want to give us like a little plot synopsis on this movie?
Sure. A woman is hired, she's like a nurse or something, and she's hired to take care of an elderly woman who's kind of like in and out of a coma in a secluded house. So she goes there with her friend, and she meets I don't really know what she was. She's like kind of the old caretaker, or she was related to the to the woman and everything, and that's played by Mena Suvari. So they go in there, and she's very like strict, and she has all these rules and stuff like that. And the woman is clearly like in a coma, so she's like, okay, these are the things you need to do. These are the things that you have to take care of, and you can't have any visitors. You have to live on a secluded cabin. There is a phone, it does work, and that's basically it. So this woman lives in this house for a little bit. I think it's for a week until that she can get transferred out of that house to a hospital. And, it's kind of things are going normally. She's taking care of her. Once in a while, she goes to see the woman, but then weird stuff starts happening. And typically to these types of films, the phone stops working very conveniently, and then it just gets crazy from there. So that's kind of the synopsis of it. Nothing too unique. Like I feel I've seen this type of film before, but it did have its own kind of unique vibe to it as well. So Joe, what did you think of The Accursed?
Yeah, so ultimately I was left disappointed with this one overall. I thought it started very strong. I really liked the intro here with Meg Foster and kind of the whole, cool little intro curse scene with the demon and stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's really cool. This is like going in the right direction. Then after that, for me, it just like never got interesting enough again. Like I really felt like it was a chore to get through a lot of it. I wasn't a big fan of our lead actresses here. The two leads, who were the main girl and her friend. I do think kudos to Mena Suvari. I think Mena Suvari was probably the best character and best actress in this entire thing. So she was definitely one of the biggest positives of it. I did like the demon design in this movie, played by Troy James, I believe his name is, who is a contortionist. You might know him from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark as well. He played I don't even know, whatever you call him there, but he was like the kind of backwards looking thing that's really creepy in that. But he's really awesome in this as well. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling this one, unfortunately. So yeah, overall for me, this one's a skip.
I liked it more than Joe did. So I thought there was actually a lot to love about the movie. I personally thought it was well acted, but definitely Mena Suvari being the highlight of this film. She plays the creepy kind of old caretaker really, really well. Very uptight, but like, which is odd for Mena Suvari because she's also usually pretty outgoing in her films and stuff like that. So that was a cool character trait that she had in this movie. Thought it had some very memorable scenes. I thought it was well directed, like just the way the shots were composed and the way the flow was and all that stuff. And there were a decent amount of scares. There was some tension in this movie that I really enjoyed. I do think that the last 15 minutes of this movie are definitely the highlight. I thought it actually ended well and creepily, and kind of had some questions as to what the hell's going on, but in a good way. It had some good body horror and it had some good kills and stuff like that. So I did really like the way it ended. My problem with the film is I didn't really vibe with the story. I thought it was a little all over the place. It was a little slow and boring at times. There's parts of it where there isn't a lot going on, because we're in a secluded cabin and it's really just one character, even though there is an old lady that's kind of, there, but she's mostly passed out. So she doesn't do much. It's really just one person and we're riffing off that one person. And that wasn't super interesting. And so I felt they had like the right ingredients for a solid film, but never, like, because the script wasn't strong enough, never really got there. I do think it's worth checking out at least once, especially if it's on a streaming service, but it doesn't do anything enough to like stand out with all the other stuff that I watched in 2022 or other films of the same genre. So I think it's worth checking out maybe if it goes on streaming, but outside of that, it's it's an okay movie.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Steve, for that review. And once again, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, our interview with Kevin Lewis and Mena Suvari after the episode. So let's get in now to a little bit of horror news before we get into our reviews for tonight. Quite a lot of bit of horror. We haven't done horror news in a long time, so I have a lot here, but I'll definitely try to keep it short because we are reviewing 2 movies tonight. The first big bit of news here is that The Conjuring 4 is officially in development. It is going to be the same filmmaking team from the last movie. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, that's totally up to you. I think me and Steve, based on our part 3 review, is going to say it is a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, that's really all we have as far as news right now. We'll definitely keep you guys updated. But Steve, any thoughts before we get into the next story?
I mean, Conjuring 1 and 2 are 2 of my favorite horror films, period, of all time. So I love this series. I'm definitely looking forward to a 4th one. But yeah, that 3rd one I did not like at all. It was my most disappointing film of last year. And I really hope that they can kind of learn what they, did last time and go back to the formula that worked before. I think the problem with the last one is that it was more like courtroom / investigation rather than like ghosts. I hope they go back to more like ghosty stuff because that's what I feel that series is more about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I think that they hopefully learned their lesson, but who knows? After seeing Halloween Ends, you never know anymore. But yeah, I'll definitely watch it. That's for sure.
Sure. All right. Well, here is a big piece of news that just dropped today or the other day, and that is Tobin Bell is returning to the Saw franchise, ladies and gentlemen. Saw 10, of course, is going to be coming out October 27th, 2023. Perfect timing, right in time for Halloween season. And it was announced today that Tobin Bell is returning. Just a quick little quote from Lionsgate. The return of Bell to the franchise furthers Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures' goal of a film that captures everything Saw fans love about the franchise while also keeping them guessing with all new traps and a new mystery to solve. So, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's exciting, but how do they tie him into this movie? I mean, they've tied him in many other movies, but of course he died in the 3rd one. So we'll see. But I think it's great. I'm excited to see him back.
I think Christopher Walken has had a tape somewhere for the last 20 years. And that's how they're going to tie in Tobin Bell. They're going to extract that uncomfortable hunk of metal from Christopher Walken. And that's going to be the story of Saw 10. Calling it right now. That's what it is. So, I don't know. They've brought him back in really unique ways so far. I really like kind of the unique way they brought him back in the last real Saw movie. What was it called? Not Saw Legacy. What was that last Saw without not Spiral, the one before that? Do you remember what the title
I don't remember the title. Oh shit.
Yeah,
no, I can't remember
that one. the last Saw before Spiral, I thought was a
Right.
unique way to bring him back, and I actually like that angle. So if they can find a good reason to bring him back, I think it'd be cool. I love Tobin Bell. He's so creepy. It's cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, file this next story under something no one really saw coming, as we thought the Hell House LLC franchise was pretty much done after their third and final movie. Well, it has been announced that Hell House LLC is coming back. Of course, the very popular Halloween themed found footage franchise will be coming back to Shudder in 2023. This one is going to be titled Hell House LLC Origins. We are going to be getting an origins story to do with the Carmichael Manor. So I guess before, the haunts take over. Yeah, could be an interesting story. I really liked the first Hell House. The other two I thought were lacking a little bit, but I'm definitely down for an origin story here. Yeah, Steve, thoughts?
I really liked the first two. Didn't really vibe with the third one. I just don't know if this works for this franchise to have a prequel like that, because the thing that I like about the Hell House movies is the found footage aspect of it all. So to have a prequel, I don't think they can go found footage for a prequel like that. So I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I'll definitely watch it because I do love this series enough to check it out. And if you haven't watched this series, it's a perfect spooky movie to watch around this time of year, especially the first one. Really,
Definitely.
really good one to check out. So yeah, I'll still definitely watch this one.
I would say an absolute great double feature for this time of the year would be Hell House LLC and The House is October Built. If you can watch those two back to back, the first of both of those, I think those are two great like haunt style found footage movies. So check both those out. All right, next story. File this one under something we are absolutely going to be covering on this show in December. The Mean One has been announced, which is a horror adaptation story of The Grinch, and going to be starring someone we had on the show recently. David Howard Thornton, aka Art the Clown, will be playing the evil Grinch in this one. It is going to be releasing in 2022. So in The Mean One, David Howard Thornton further cements his presence in horror history with this newly iconic slasher villain. So it sounds like the Grinch is going to become a slasher villain in this one. Very cool. No other plot synopsis at this time, but I mean, you get the gist of it. So sounds really fun. Steve, what do you think?
I love it. I
Yeah.
love the idea of it. It's like the Winnie the Pooh one that is also coming out at
Yes.
some point
Mhm.
soon. I love that they're taking these classic children's characters and just ruining them for everyone in a good way, because I really like the concept. And someone asked me why we didn't ask David Howard Thornton about this movie when we interviewed him. We actually
Mhm.
recorded that interview like 3 weeks before we released it because of the embargo. And we didn't know about it at the time, is basically why we
Mhm.
didn't ask him. We definitely would
Definitely.
have, because this is right down our wheelhouse. And yeah,
Yep.
absolutely, we will cover this movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can't wait. Hopefully maybe we get a screener and get David Howard back on, and we can do the whole interview about that. So we'll see. Stay tuned. How did I even not mention this yet? We've been so behind on news that I'm just finally starting to get stuff here, but file this under something I think most horror fans didn't think was going to happen, but it has been officially announced that Trick or Treat, the sequel, is in development, according, of course, to the original director, Michael Dougherty. From what I heard, it's like pretty much in deep development. Like this movie is going to happen. Super excited. When it will actually release, we'll see. Maybe next October, maybe the following October. But wow, Trick or Treat 2 after, I mean, well over a decade. I mean, I think the first one came out in 2009. So, almost 13, 14 years later, this is finally going to see the light of day. Is it too late? Do you think it's too late? I personally don't. Like, I feel like the Sam character is still so relevant, and his merch has just gotten hotter and hotter every year. So this is probably the right time. Like, strike while the iron's kind of hot, because I feel like he's still really hot right now. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I don't think in this case it's too late. I think it's because of the structure of the series too. The character Sam can be immortal, right? It's just he's masked, so it doesn't really matter who's under him. So that character can just live on into any movie, and it's an anthology, so they can really do whatever the hell they want. It's not like Zombieland, which came 10 years after, between each other, was like too late because the hype was gone. I feel that this one could just keep coming back every 15 years and be relevant. But I also feel it's more relevant now than it was back then. Spirit Halloween has a ton of trick-or-treat stuff, and there are so many trick-or-treat items out there that it's crazy that this hasn't come back already. So finally, we'll get to see it. I'm psyched about it.
Definitely. Well, file this one under, is it too late? As Jason Blum has officially announced that Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, is happening. They've already announced a director and the production date. So it's looking like February 2023 is when it's going to go into production, with a release for sometime late next year. I mean, what do you think, Steve? I just think like this is like a few years too late. Do people still enjoy I mean, I don't know. I was never a Five Nights at Freddy's guy, but is the demand, I guess, still there for a Five Nights at Freddy's movie?
This is too late. This is way too late. They had like a 2-year period where it was really hot, but it's old news at this point. Graphically, it doesn't look great anymore. We've had movies similar to it. We had Banana Splits. We had Willy's Wonderland, of course, with Kevin Lewis, that have very similar vibes to Five Nights at Freddy's. It's too late. They missed the boat. Now, the name recognition will help them a little bit, but I still don't think it's going to be very successful. I'll probably check it out just because I like the subject matter, but yeah, I agree. They should have done this 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. All righty. I put this next one, just 2 more stories, guys, but I put this next one in because we actually reviewed the movie for our Valentine's episode a couple years back, and that is Mark Wahlberg's movie Fear. Well, it has been announced, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting a TV series that is going to be coming to Peacock. So, told from conflicting points of view, the series wrestles with personal demons, hidden agendas, and reframes the he said, she said convention into a twist-filled suspense story about toxic relationships. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it is. I just don't know if you'll be able to capture the same type of magic, I guess, that, Mark Wahlberg was able to bring to this series. Without him, I don't know if Fear will be as successful. But, we'll see what actors they bring in and whatnot. And, maybe it'll be a decent little suspense thriller.
This is a weird one. I don't know who the hell asked for this. It's such a weird thing to bring back. I would think to just do something similar and call it something else. I don't know. Like, who's demanding for a Fear project this late on? Does anyone really want to see a domestic abuse film right now? I don't know. When I read this, I was just like, okay, that's odd. We'll see, I guess, but I'm not excited about this at all.
Mm-hmm. And for our final story tonight, had to keep it spooky for Halloween and file this one under Steve. Why haven't you bought this yet? As Harridan of Vodka has announced their very special Paranormal Reserve vodka for the year, the Annabelle edition, as this vodka has been stirring in the actual Warren Paranormal Museum for the past 30 days. You can buy the bottles for $199 over at shopharridan.com, so you can have your own very haunted bottle of vodka. So, hey, if you want to spend $200 on probably a $10 bottle of vodka just because it was in the Warren Museum for 30 days, go for it. But hey, why not?
This is crazy. Would I buy it if it was cheaper and available in Canada? Maybe. But I love how it's like 30 days. Like, that's nothing. It's so, I guess they're desperate for money, but good on them. I'm sure it'll sell. So it is what it is. I'm not a big vodka guy anyway, personally, but I do have some Crystal Head. I always thought that was cool. Mm-hmm. So maybe this will sucker me too one day if ever I see it here.
Well, Steve, I should also mention it's limited to 666 bottles. And might I also mention the 666th bottle, which is they're calling the most chilling bottle of all.
Please tell me it was in the Annabelle
for the very low price. Would you like to guess?
$666.
$13,000, ladies and gentlemen.
Now,
so it is packaged in a one-of-a-kind wooden case that is a replica of Annabelle's current confines, and yes, you can purchase it for the low price of $13,000.
Now, was this bottle in the case with Annabelle for 30 days, or else it's not worth it? I think that would be what they should do. They should have
it was-
Annabelle holding the bottle for 30 days.
Right.
And then
So-
maybe.
This one was specifically placed directly in front of Annabelle's case.
That's crazy. Someone's gonna buy it. So it's like, I always told people when I used to be in pricing for a long time, and there are two ways to price something. Either very low so that it'll sell, or so high that people start wondering, wow, I might need this because it's so high, because it's a premium product. Even though it's the same fucking thing, there's like this weird price point where people get curious. So yeah. Oh, Joe's just showing me a picture. Oh, come on. There's like a bunch of bottles right in front of Annabelle. Like that one is probably like an inch closer than all the other ones, and somehow jumped $13,000 in price.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my god.
Well, hey, someone's gonna buy it, and yeah, I would maybe consider the $200 one because it's kind of a cool story, and it's not like crazily expensive, but we'll see. That's it for horror news this week. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. All right, everyone. So let's get into our reviews. We're gonna start with The Curse of Bridge Hollow, which you can watch over on Netflix. It's a 2022 film directed by Jeff Wadlow. Halloween comes to life. A Halloween-hating dad reluctantly teams up with his teenage daughter when an evil spirit wreaks havoc by making their own town's decorations come to life. So this is the story of a family who moves to a place called Bridge Hollow. It is a small town that takes Halloween very seriously. It's also a town that is very desirable to people that keep winning awards for being like one of the best small towns in America. So this family gets there around Halloween time. Almost everyone has decorations. They're very, very festive. They meet the mayor, and then all sorts of stuff happen. So finally, the teenage girl, which I think is played by Erica from Stranger Things, now that I think of it. I'd have to confirm that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who she is. So she finds this really creepy kind of turnip pumpkin thing, and then she lights it, and of course, because it looks like kind of a jack-o'-lantern, and that releases a demon that starts putting his essence into nearby decorations that start wreaking havoc on the town. And then it's up to her dad, her friends, and her other people in the town, her neighbor and stuff like that, to stop the curse and figure out how to bring the demon back into his little turnip thing and save the town. So that's basically the synopsis of this movie. Joe, what did you think of The Curse of Bridge Hollow?
Yeah, so overall, I thought it was cute. It was a very like Halloween kidsy movie. It honestly gave me Goosebumps 2 vibes in a lot of ways, because it kind of has like a similar plot where the Halloween decorations come to life. But overall, like I thought it was very cutesy. It reminded me of I feel like they were definitely going for a Salem, Massachusetts vibe a lot, because I believe it does take place in Massachusetts too. I noticed I'm pretty sure it's Bridge Hollow, Massachusetts or something like that, which I felt like was pretty much a fictional Massachusetts town. So I thought that was kind of cool. There's some really fun moments here. I really loved the Rob Riggle as the crazy neighbor with all the crazy decorations. I love like his Walking Dead, like Rick Grimes thing going on. There was some good jokes here and there. I definitely like Hubie Halloween vibes as well from last year. I do think Hubie Halloween is definitely the better of the two movies, but I think this is definitely like a good one to watch with the family at this time of the year. It had some really fun moments and definitely put me in the Halloween vibe.
I'm a sucker for family-friendly Halloween movies. I really, really like them. We reviewed a few on the show. Paranorman, one of my favorites. Hubie Halloween quickly became one of my favorites. I just really love movies to take place over Halloween, and this one is right down my alley in that sense. So it's also nice to watch something like a little lighter and something that could be like good for the whole family. It's not too horror, but it still has like some decent scares for a movie like this. So I like all that. I like Marlon Wayans and Kelly Rowland, who play the parents. And yes, the girl is Erica from Stranger Things. I just like thought of it now as I was talking about it. Like, wait a minute, I think that was Erica from Stranger Things. So I really like the feel of it. I like that everyone has decorations. I wish my neighborhood was as decorated as this town. And I really like the idea of Halloween decorations coming to life. I thought that was a really cool angle that they did somewhat successfully, I'd say. It was cool to see recognizable decorations as well. Like, I recognize some stuff that I've seen at Spirit Halloween, and that was a really cool kind of detail that they had. What I think I didn't like as much is some of the dialogue and the jokes didn't really hit with me. There are some dialogue choices that were kind of cringy and kind of like, okay, that's, I don't know about that. It's not very funny, or that's not really, advancing the plot much, or they were overacting in certain situations and stuff like that. Particularly Marlon Wayans' character. I think he was good in some scenes, like really funny, but maybe a little too over the top in others, especially near the end. But I had fun watching it. The variety of monsters, the action scenes, like the scenes where it's Rob Wiggle, right? The neighbor, his action scenes with the zombies. And then later we had the spiders, and we had the zombie football players as Marlon Wayans goes after them with the chainsaw and stuff like that. There are good scenes in this movie that I enjoyed, and overall I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a pretty basic one. There's not like a ton to talk about on this one, but I did like the whole like backstory in this one with what is she, like a witch or something like that kind of lived in the house. And yeah, I liked Tulip, is that what it was, kind of, or whatever it was, thing that was really cool. Yeah, I mean, it was just your basic little family Halloween movie. Yeah, I mean, I don't really got much else to say about it, Steve, unless you do.
Yeah, what you think of the design of some of the Halloween decorations that attack, particularly the kind of final boss with the giant pumpkin head? And he almost looked like the Headless Horseman, but with a giant pumpkin head on top of him, like his suit did.
I loved it.
Yeah, so you like that?
I loved it. I thought that was fantastic. I loved that design. But most of the design, like the things, the little like cats, the flat cat that was running around at one time was really funny, really cute. But yeah, that like main pumpkin guy at the end was awesome. I loved the scene with the spiders in the old folks' home. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of like memorable scenes. I don't know. It just like, I thought it was like good, but there was just something, I guess, missing for me to make it like great. And I mean, I really can't put my foot down on what exactly it was. Maybe I just didn't, I wasn't connecting with the characters as much in this one or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. There was just something like missing for me to make this like a year-round Halloween tradition. But I still really enjoyed it, and I would still watch it again for sure. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Is this something you would like make your like a year tradition for you?
Probably not. I think you're onto something, because I think I feel the same way. What was missing to me is that I didn't super like connect with the main characters. And I think the reason for that is they throw her into the story too quickly. We don't really get to spend time with her at school, really like befriending these other characters and really like forming that bond where they then attack, the character, like the attacking zombies and the, Spirit Halloween decorations and stuff like that. I wish they had focused more on, I guess, the kids' relationship rather than her relationship with her parents, because I thought her and the other kids had more of a rapport, ironically, than her with their own parents. I thought they should have just kind of stayed out of it a little bit. Now I get they were the bigger stars, so they wanted to feature him more, but I thought it was more interesting with the kids. I love the costumes of the kids. I just felt that there should have been just more to them and the relationship. I love like the costumes that they chose. I like the guy. He's the guy from Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton. And you have one as Gwen Stacy, and you have, I like the kind of jokes and the way that they were kind of riffing on what they were dressed like. And I thought there should have been more of the high school stuff, because I really enjoy that in all of these kind of spooky, less horror Halloween stories. It's something that, I don't know, it brings me back to my childhood that I was missing a little bit with this, because it was so focused on the dad. And I really didn't like the dad character. He was too over the top at times. Like sometimes he was funny, but when he's like saying the final spell, for example, at the end, he was like too much. I don't know. It just, didn't sit well with me. So I will watch it again, I think, but just not annually.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just think they didn't develop the characters enough for you to like care about them like as much as say, Hubie. I feel like those were much like better developed, like all the characters, even like all the side characters and whatnot. So I definitely think that was where this movie failed the most, but where it succeeded the most definitely was in all of the Halloween decoration, character set designs and stuff like that. That was all fun. I also felt like the town was too small. Like it felt way too small. Like there was really only that one little center town hall, which is like one of the smallest like little town centers I've ever seen. It just felt like too small to me. So I guess that's my other like biggest complaint. Like I feel like they could have spread it out more and could have did more with that. But overall, yeah, a fun, definitely family movie to watch around this time of the year.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So what would you rate it?
Yeah, so overall, yeah, I mean, I had a fun time with this one. It didn't like blow me away, but it's something, I would watch every few times if it was on TV, maybe. I don't know if I would like go and grab the DVD, throw it in or something. If it was on TV, I'd probably watch it. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 6.5.
And I'm at a 7, I would say. I think it's a decent film. I enjoyed watching it. Like you said, I don't know if I'd go out of my way to watch it. And that's kind of a problem with Netflix in general, in my opinion. For some reason, I feel like they get lost. Hubie's a really big exception for me. But had this had like a theatrical release, even if it wasn't super successful, then a Blu-ray, and if I had the Blu-ray, maybe I'd watch it more. But the fact it's on Netflix, I don't know if I would pop this in with all the competition that it has. It's
right.
I feel like for legacy, for like watching it over and over, it loses something when it's just on a streaming service exclusively. In Austin, they don't even do a Blu-ray release for stuff like this. So like I don't know if Hubie's on Blu-ray. I never actually looked into it, but
I don't know.
I don't think so. Netflix doesn't do Blu-rays often, so, and that's a shame. That kind of hurts from its future potential, in my opinion. But still, I think you should watch it if you like spooky kind of intro to horror movies. I think this is a very good one to start with. It is a little bit scary, maybe for children, if they have arachnophobia or they have like different fears and stuff like that. It's maybe a little bit too much, like a not early teen, maybe like 10 to 12 would be a good age for this, I think. So yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, very cool. Speaking, I should also mention, since we mentioned Hubie Halloween, is that we had a little bit of Halloween Inception collision of two movies, as actually Omri Katz, we did a photo op of him underneath the Hubie Halloween lights in Salem Common. So you'll be able to see those pictures. We'll post them up on our Instagram. We might actually have that one from an unprofessional standpoint. I think Steve might have took that. I think I might have added it, so you'll be able to see it over on our Instagram or Facebook, or I think Instagram and Facebook. I didn't post it on the Twitter, but you'll be able to see it there. So kind of a fun little two Salem Halloween movies colliding together in that one photo. So that was kind of fun in of itself. But all right, Steve, let's get into Hellraiser now.
All right. Hellraiser 2022, directed by David Bruckner, which you can find over on Hulu, I believe, in the US. A young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon the Cenobites, a group of sadistic supernatural beings from another dimension. So this story starts off with a guy. He's at a party and he meets a woman there. And he's like very impressed by the guy who lived there and his house and everything. And he finds out that the woman actually works for that guy. And she says, "Oh, I could introduce you to him. I'm sure he'd love to meet you." So he goes to do that. And she brings him into this big room that has a bunch of ancient artifacts kind of in boxes, like a museum. And he sees in the middle, there's one box that's uncovered. And it is, of course, our infamous box from the Hellraiser series is sitting there. So he takes it, he gets cut by it. And then the man comes in and explains what the box is, says it's a puzzle box. And all of a sudden, these chains start coming out of nowhere. The walls open, and that guy is promptly killed by a bunch of Cenobites. And you come to find out that that man wants the final wish that you get when you open, I think it's all 7 of the victims, bring you to the final level where you can get a gift from God. Movie picks up 6 years later, where a woman is with her boyfriend and she's having trouble with money and stuff like that, and maybe on drugs, and has a whole problem. She lives with her brother. Yeah, so she goes with her boyfriend and they go to steal the safe, and inside the safe they find the puzzle box, and of course they take it because they think it's worth some money. But as she starts like playing around with it, she gets cut, and the Cenobites come up to her and say, we're going to give you a chance to live, but you have to give us victims. So her job essentially is to find victims for the Cenobites so that, they can continue on with what they want to do. But she, of course, doesn't want to do that. She's a good person deep inside. So as she's trying to figure out the box, people in her life start getting stung by this box, and they start getting killed by Cenobites as it gains its shape. And then it leads her to that original house, which is built almost like a big prison. It's got like these crazy metal contraptions that can open and close with buttons inside the house. And she realizes that the guy is once again waiting for the 7 victims so he can have another wish, because it seems his first wish did not go the way he had planned. And that's kind of where the story takes us. So, Joe, Hellraiser 2022, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, this man, I got some things to say about this one. I like the Hellraiser franchise. I certainly don't love it. I feel like the first 2 are fantastic. After that, it tends to drop off. It has its highs and lows. There's some real stinkers in there in the middle. I actually did like the one with Paul Taylor, which I think was called Revelations, maybe. I can't remember. But that one I actually kind of liked. And I was kind of looking forward to a sequel with that one. Never came about. That's okay. We get this one instead. This one's kind of, I guess you could call it a reboot, I suppose. And overall, I enjoyed this one. I thought this one was definitely the best one since the second movie, for sure. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I thought the Cenobites all looked really cool. I loved the designs of all of them. It was different. They didn't try to exactly copy the original, but like was close enough that, you're like, okay, like they look similar, but kind of did somewhat of their own thing. Plus, like they did some really like extra cool things with the torture and stuff like this. I do think they could have went more. Like, I think they could have went crazier for sure. Like the first couple movies there. Like, I think they definitely could have notched up on the gore. I think they kind of held back a little bit, which was a little disappointing. Where this movie definitely lacks, though, is for sure the story. Like, I feel like it drags at times. I feel a big problem is our main character being pretty unlikable. Like, she's not really like a great person. Like, I understand like she's trying to recover, but she keeps falling back out. Like, which is like interesting, right? Like, in its own sense. But like, I don't know. Like, it was a weird. She's a pretty shitty person most of the time, so it's kind of hard to root for her. I caught the twist like a mile away with the boyfriend character there. Like, I knew that was coming like all day. I thought it was so predictable. Yeah, I liked the main guy, or the creepy dude who kind of like lived in the walls there, that was hiding. Like, I felt that was pretty obvious too. Like, he didn't die like in the beginning there. I felt that. So I just felt like the story was certainly lacking. Like, I felt it was pretty predictable, not super interesting, but the Cenobites make up for it because when they're on screen, it's great. There's definitely some good gore scenes. They could have did more for sure, but overall I thought this was pretty cool. And I got a few other things to say, but I'll let you go, Steve.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way about the Hellraiser series. I like some of the first ones, and I like some of the titles in them. I find some other titles are overly too complicated and just go a little bit too crazy, but this one held back a little bit, kind of rebooted the franchise. It really felt like it was rebooting the franchise, which was both something good and bad about this one. The story is interestingly both really simple yet very complicated, because they're trying to reintroduce all of the rules of the puzzle box and the Cenobites, what their deal is, kind of trying to bring everything to a new audience. And that kind of slows the movie down for people who've seen the other Hellraiser movies, and that's kind of a problem. I agree with you. I didn't like the hero characters at all. So when I don't like the hero characters, I don't care about their fate. And that's a problem when you're watching a horror movie if you don't care about the fate of the heroes, because it's like, they die, whatever. It's just, I was actually excited to see them die, to be honest, because when the Cenobites would come into play and you would start seeing kind of the body horror that they had, and it would show the way that they would kill the characters over over the course of the film. That was the highlight of the film for me, is when the Cenobites showed up and killed the victims. I actually felt gypped when they would take that away from us. For example, the woman who worked for like the main guy, I forget his name. You see her 6 years later and she's got like stage 4 cancer and she could barely breathe and stuff like that. And the Cenobites, it's one of the first people we see getting killed by the Cenobites, but they take that away. They just cut before she gets killed. And that sucks. Like, why not show that? That's what we're watching these horror movies for, it's to see the kills, right? That's usually what we're in there for. So stuff like that kind of bothered me. And I just wasn't as invested into everything outside of the Cenobite story, which is another problem. But when the Cenobites were in, I thought they were great. Like you said, they had their unique looks, but they didn't try to reinvent the wheel with it either. They were like familiar, but new at the same time. Now, obviously, we have characters that we've seen before in some iteration. The Chatterer, of course, Pinhead, which I think in this one's called the Priest, isn't called Pinhead. We just know that character's Pinhead, and it's played by someone new, Jamie Clayton, which was very controversially played by a woman. And to me, that didn't do anything. I thought it was fine, it didn't affect the movie either way. I thought it was a good character. I liked the creepy voice that she had. I thought it added a lot, actually, but it wasn't that big a deal to me that they changed that character. The Pinhead character was always meant to be kind of both genders and no gender at the same time. So it really doesn't matter who plays that character. I thought they did a good job of it. And that goes for all of the Cenobites. I really liked the design of the Cenobites. I liked when we'd start seeing new ones and stuff like that. Now, of course, there are issues, and I'm sure that's part of what Joe's going to talk about. Some of the plot points I thought were a little weak. Like, how did that Cenobite get stuck between two doors when there was clearly a ton of room for them to get out? Just little kind of nitpicks, but I'll let Joe start giving some of his, points.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, first I want to say Jamie Clayton definitely was really solid as Pinhead. I mean, obviously horror fans are always going to be like, well, Doug Bradley this, Doug Bradley that. But, I mean, sometimes you got to pass the torch. They're not always going to be there. And I think even Doug Bradley gave his seal of approval on Jamie Clayton. I mean, Doug Bradley is no spring chicken. Could he still do it? Absolutely, probably. But, it was cool to see a different iteration of Pinhead here. And I thought she, for the most part, killed it. I love the way they distorted her voice. I thought that was really cool, really creepy. I love how she took the pins out of the head and shit like that and kind of used it and stuff. I thought that stuff was all great. Yeah, I mean, where it comes back to for me is just the story. I mean, in a lot of ways, they kind of ripped off 13 Ghosts here. It was so weird. The house thing was really bizarre to me. That he built it to kind of trap the Cenobites and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, but this has been done before, So I was like, okay, that's kind of bizarre. I wasn't really feeling that whole thing, and it just, I don't know, I just didn't think it was all that interesting. I think they could have did something cooler with that guy, and I really like that actor. I can't remember. I know him from ER best. I know he's done a bunch of other stuff too, and I mean, I like that actor, and I think they could have done more with him. The story to me, it's just to me at the end of the day, it just all comes down to the story, and it was just, this could have been one of the better movies of the year had this been a really solid story to go with the great design of the Cenobites and some pretty cool imagery and gore, but yeah, it just unfortunately missed the mark on one of the most important parts of the movie.
So what do you think of the kills and stuff like that in the movie that we actually got to see? And specifically, I'm curious, do you think the Chatterer should have counted as a victim? Or what? I didn't realize that the Cenobites would be into play,
Yeah, that was kind of weird to me too. I thought that was kind of cool. It was kind of unique and interesting that like, this, but I feel like the Cenobites shouldn't be able to be defeated. Like, you know what I mean? They're like from hell. So I don't understand like how really they can be killed. Like that's kind of the scary thing about them. Like once they come, like you're fucked. And I honestly like the sequels all kind of like blend together after the first two. So I don't know if they've introduced that in any of the other movies. Like I said, I'm not like a super well versed in the Hellraiser franchise. So I don't know if they've introduced that in another movie, but I really I didn't love that aspect here. I mean, I thought it was like interesting, but I didn't love it. So that was disappointing. Overall, though, I thought all the kills they did show were really cool, especially like, I mean, maybe it's not a kill, but like that scene at our very last image we see in the movie, I thought was really cool and really interesting and really makes me want to see a sequel. Like after seeing like, oh, okay, like where do we go from here type thing? Like, is he going to be the new Cenobite? Which I assume is kind of like what we are to assume based on that last frame we see in the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think of the kills overall?
I liked them. I think they were gory. I liked the body horror that some of the kills kind of showed you. And I really liked also when that guy shows kind of how things went wrong for him in the past, why he became kind of the way that he, like his form that he was throughout the kind of second half of the movie. And I love that transformation at the end into what I'm also assuming is a Cenobite. That was definitely kind of the highlights of the movie. And the design of the Cenobites were also really creepy and good body horror. I like the way that they did those as well. There was some really unique designs, but also familiar, like we talked about before. I like the kill in the car. I thought was really cool, and yeah, I dug it. But I also agree that killing the Chatterer rubbed me the wrong way. I I don't know. I really feel like the Cenobite should have been off limits for things like that, or at least not counted towards one of the victims. I'm also bummed that we're not going to see the Chatterer again, unless we will. But I hope so, because that's one of my favorite ones. It's just like such an iconic Cenobite that I don't know that they should have killed that one. And something about Pinhead that I really liked, there was actual pins as opposed to like nails, right, from the original Hellraiser. So kind of lived up to the name more, even though they weren't called the Pinhead in this; they were called the Priest. So I thought that's interesting as well.
Yeah, for sure. What did you think of? Did you catch on to the boyfriend being like part of the whole like master plan there with our main villain guy there? How he was hired essentially to, I guess, befriend or get into a romantic relationship with this girl in order to get her, I guess,
Yeah.
to get into this box essentially to find the
Yeah,
puzzle box.
I saw it coming, I'd say like midway through the film, like when they were at the
Mhm.
house and stuff like that. But having rewatched it, because I didn't remember it super well because I had watched it like weeks ago, I watched it again today, and you do see that he's in and on it from the beginning. How he makes them go to that warehouse and
Right.
specifically steal what essentially is the puzzle box, right? So yeah, I mean they planted those seeds really early, but I only caught it, I'd say midway, once they actually got all to the house at the same time there. So yeah, and I didn't like that either. It just, I don't know. It seemed a little
Yeah.
far fetched to me.
Too convenient, like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I thought the puzzle box was awesome in this movie though. Like it was way cooler than I remembered it in some of the other iterations of the franchise. Like it was really its own character in a lot of ways in this movie, the way it moved and the way it came out and stuff like that, the way it absorbed the blood and stuff. I thought it was really, really cool, really awesome. That first kill too was really cool too, when the guy goes in when they're having that Eyes Wide Shut style sex party going on there. I thought that intro was really cool. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else, Steve, before we get going?
No, not really. I did really like the movie. I thought there are a lot of good things about it, but I feel that there are some things they could have done better. And it wasn't a deep film, sometimes when we review these movies, we have some really deep discussions about meanings and stuff like that. I felt this was pretty straightforward film, but like I said, it was weird. It was this weird thing where it was like too simple but too complicated at the same time. simple concept, very complicated execution is how I would best describe it. Also very convenient how she has all this material that explains everything. So there are constant exposition dumps throughout the film where they just stop the action so she can explain the history of the Cenobites and how the box works and all that stuff, which was very convenient, that she knew like basically everything through material that was so easily available to her. But still, overall, I think I enjoyed it. So yeah, that's all I have for the movie.
All right.
I would rate this like a 6.5 out of 10. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a solid film, but not one of my favorites of the year. And I did watch it twice for the review. Had it not been for that, I don't know if I would have watched it again. I really have no desire. It was good, but it's not something that I'd want to pop in again. You know, maybe if there's a sequel, I'll watch it again just to kind of refresh myself. But other than that, it just came and went, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, like I thought it was the best since part 2, which says a lot. I mean, because there's a lot of movies in this franchise. They did something a little different, with the female Pinhead and all that. I thought that was all really great. I think with a better story, like I said, this could be a better movie, and that's why I am excited that for that to see a sequel. And I think we probably will see a sequel for this franchise or this new reboot iteration here. So, and I'd be down for it because I liked pretty much everything else other than the story. So I think if they can improve that, I think we are on our way to potentially the Hellraiser franchise returning to its early glory. And I mean, I think that's what we all hope for as horror fans. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty solid. Could have been better, absolutely, but decent, pretty good for what we got.
Yeah, it's crazy that this is another Disney production, between Prey and now Hellraiser. It's just crazy to me that Disney's making all these horror franchises come back to life.
All right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Steve, any parting words for our Halloween episode or the Henri Katz event we just did? Any last thoughts?
It's just so surreal. I'm still processing a lot of it. Like we just came back from it basically. And I'm sure we'll have stuff to say over the coming weeks and months. If you go on the Hangout, like I said, with our Discord for the movie club, I'm sure I'll have more to say about it and kind of give exclusive feedback to them. But it was such a great event. And again, I can't thank everyone that helped and everyone that showed up and all the listeners. It was an incredible weekend. And just want to wish everyone a super awesome and safe Halloween. This is the holiday for, a podcast like us. This is our day we live it all year round, but this is the actual day that we can kind of do all that spooky stuff, and everyone joins in with us. So I wish you all the absolute best Halloween.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Happy Halloween, everyone. We hope you've had an amazing spooky season. Thank you so much to everyone that came out to both of our events. We actually I saw at least one person that came to both of our events, which was awesome. Our Damien. So, and once again, a massive thank you to both of our guests. We had Damien Maffei and Henri Katz. They were both amazing. So we really appreciate that. And hopefully the Octobers to come and on, we're going to have more amazing events for you guys. So definitely keep on with the podcast and our social medias, and we'll keep you guys up to date with everything. But that is going to be it for our Halloween spooktacular episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow us on all forms of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, the absolute best way to keep up with our podcast is our Discord. Completely free. All you have to do is send us a private message on one of our social medias, and we will get you that special link to join the Discord. A bunch of fellow horror fans and listeners. We talk everything. We have book clubs. We have movie clubs. We talk everything and everything, not even just horror. We talk just a bunch of random stuff over there. So it's definitely fun, and join a great horror community over there. Do not forget to stay tuned for our interview with Mena Suvari and Kevin Lewis immediately after my little spiel here. But also you can get in touch with us, email thehorrorsquadpodcast@gmail.com. if you want to maybe hook up with us, maybe, you want to do an event with us, we would love to collaborate with people as well. So we never shy away from anything. So feel free to email us. And I think that's really it, guys. Once again, happy Halloween and stay tuned for the interview. Enjoy.
Bye.
See ya. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, where today we are joined by two very special guests. Their new movie, The Accursed, is now available in select theaters and also video on demand. Please welcome actress Mena Suvari, and also please welcome back to the show for his second time, director Kevin Lewis. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. How you both doing today?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, Kevin, why don't you start out by telling the listeners a little bit about The Accursed and what it's all about?
Okay. So yeah, the story is about a young nurse who gets a phone call. Her mother died, and she's kind of grieving, and she gets a phone call to be a caretaker to this older woman. And she takes the job to try to get the whole thing with her mom off her mind. And she finds out later that it was all planned. There was a little diabolical plot going on. So, yeah.
All right, awesome. And Mena, can you tell us a little bit about your role in the film and how you got involved and how it was to work with Kevin as your director?
Oh God, amazing. I mean, would you say that Alma's a little bit of a mastermind in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Alma, she's just a woman scorned with a broken heart and looking for some hope. And she's just all out of control, and it doesn't work out in her favor. But I've been a huge fan of this genre my whole life, and I was just really excited based off of that, and obviously Kevin. And it felt like one of the more intense scripts I've ever read, and this type of role. But I was also just as excited to accept that challenge. So.
Now, Kevin, this film is quite the juxtaposition from your last film, Willy's Wonderland. As a director, do you have to get into a different mindset when doing, a more serious horror film like this, as opposed to the craziness that was Willy's Wonderland?
It's interesting. I mean, every movie is its own, its own unique. I always look at films as like snowflakes. Everyone's different, right? So for me, it's like, yes, you have to have the sensibilities of it, but it's what the narrative, needs, what it calls for. So this had some similarities in Willy's in the fact that it was, it's got some fantasy elements and stuff like that, but I was definitely trying to make a more of a grounded movie, more of a kind of movie that dealt with some more serious issues than beating up animatronics. And I was just excited about the characters and the themes of the mothers, sins of the mothers visiting to their daughters, that really got me excited about telling the story and about regret and grief. So yeah, all that combined. And I was just excited to do a different side of me on this movie. For me as an artist, to me, you always want to push yourself and challenge yourself. And I want to do a little more darker, sinister movie. And I thought this was just the perfect one to do it with. And of course, working with Mena, she was the perfect person to work with on making this movie happen. Just like Nick was with Willy's, Mena was instrumental on this film. So thank you so much again, Mena.
Oh my God, I adore you. I just loved how our first talk was really about life, and that's what was so beautiful. Yeah. It wasn't about like, okay, like this is what he need from you, and like the money and the budget and and like all this stuff. Yeah, that's there all the time. It was just like, he's such a great person. I mean, I knew that was just a win from the beginning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, Mena, I heard you say that you were a fan of the genre, and obviously you're no stranger to the genre, as you've been portrayed quite a few roles. One of my personal favorites was your role as Elizabeth Short in American Horror Story. What makes working in the horror genre unique as opposed to other genres?
Gosh. I mean, I don't even really know why I'm into all this stuff. I fully don't know why. I remember doing a talk show once, and I was talking about the book I was reading, and I think it's called Men, Maggots, and Murder, or Murder, Maggots, and Men. She's like, why are you reading that? Like, who are you? You're 20? I've just always been really fascinated by this. I don't know. I guess it's just, I don't know, the meeting of the worlds, it's very real to me. I felt like, I try to be very open and very receptive. I live my life very strangely Aquarian spiritually, but I just try to be very open to what comes my way. And I feel like I learned so much about myself through others. And this was just one of those moments. I was kind of like, wow, this is probably one of the most shocking things I've read. And they thought of me for that. Like, what does that mean? But then there's just this part of me that's like, but I want to do that. And I don't really know why. Just, again, it's so important to have that foundation. And Rob Kennedy gave us incredible material, real meat to work with that I feel like separates this film from a lot of films in this genre. But, and so you have that at the heart of this. And really with Alma, it's just loss and her intense, manic, expression of trying to control it and make it into what it never will be. And I feel like those are intense themes we can all relate to, but I don't quite know. I feel like it's a way to express those parts of oneself. I have this other through line with me, which is playing all these real people, which is very weird. So the whole like Elizabeth Short thing, that was, very different in and of itself, because, I'm always trying to bring some kind of truth and justice to it. And there's so much pain and sadness around that story. So they're all like unique in their own way, but I guess it's just so interesting. Everything about it, Alma, and it's just working with Kevin and these locations and these sets and everything that was made. Maybe that's just more exciting than like, I don't know, doing just like a regular, like rom-com or something. Like I loved when we got to go into the cinema school for makeup and doing head casts, and I got to see all of the demon parts being made. Like, I love that. That's why I do what I do. That's what I love about it. So
I think horror, though, too, you guys, it's a genre, but there's many subgenres, right? So you got like psychological horror, and then body horror, and like, and this is a very dramatic piece, right? So it's a real drama at the end of the day. It's horror, has horror elements, but it is about these characters and what's going on. So I think that's what's kind of the attraction to horror, is just you can play in the sandbox on so many different levels, right? Whereas like a rom-com is like, that's what it is. It's a rom-com. And if you do like a horror rom-com, but it's horror, you know what I mean? But horror is like, you can make horror rom-com, horror comedy, horror action, horror sci-fi, alien, right? All this stuff. But all these other genres, it's like rom-com is a rom-com. You know what I mean? So that's what's fun about horror. I think it's like you can just add it to so many different genres, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, there going back to the Accursed, there are some really solid scares in this movie, and I'd like to hear, from the both of you, what do you think makes a scare most effective when in a horror movie? Especially you, Kevin. When trying to craft a scare as a director, how do you go about making it the scariest?
It's kind of cool you asked that, because when we started making this film, I would talk to all the actors, the cast, and Mena, and I'd say, hey, what scares you, right? Because I am very into that whole psychological of the idea of like what makes someone tick, and something that maybe scares you doesn't scare me, right? And so what does that? I did that on Willie's too. Like, why are we scared of these animatronics? Like, why is it, And so with Accursed, I think religion, especially, because everyone has a different, opinion and a different backstory on where they were raised, or what their beliefs are. So you're dealing with that. You're dealing with more like the occult and dark arts and the afterlife kind of thing. You're dealing with heavy subjects as suicide, so it's funny, like Hereditary is one of my favorite horror movies in years. And that movie's dealing with a lot of grief from the get, right? And so that already sets you on that course. And so that's kind of what our movie is. You're dealing with a lot of that same thing, and it sets you on that course. And I think it's that human element, even though that we're in this fantastical world of the witch and the cabin and everything, there's still that element of the being with a man and being scorned, right? And all those things that humans we deal with all the time, right? With grief and regret and remorse. So I think that honestly is what really drew me to the project, and what I wasn't really interested in about the jump scares, cat jumping out at you, all that stuff. Like those to me are just kind of cheap earns. I think you earn it by doing something more. What I was interested in this film is very moody, atmospheric tone. One of my favorite movies, of course, The Shining. And that one scene, remember, where Jack is just sitting at that window and just staring out into nothingness, and the camera's just pushing on him. And it's like, that is so creepy and so scary. And it's Jack Nicholson with, there at the window, right? But it just gets you thinking like, oh my gosh, what's going in his head? What's going on? That's what I was excited about with this movie. When Alma says, these things my mother taught me, and you're like, oh my God, what did she teach her? Are you ready to gaze into hell? And you think about, oh my gosh, the times that they were together and what she learned and things like that, and starts getting your mind going, so that's what excited me about this film.
Yeah. And one thing that was especially scary in the movie was the demon. So, I'd like to know more about the design of the demon, who came up with it, who did the makeup for it.
Yeah. So Dave McAdoo, great visual artist, amazing, artist. And we went together and we worked on the different looks of the demon. And so I like this and then this, that, and then we worked with Devin and Cinema Makeup School and kind of built the demon. And then Troy James played the demon. So it was a practical effect. And there was a person doing it. He's a contortionist, and he's just a wonderful guy and did such a great job. And so we wanted that real practical vibe for this movie. And that's the thing. It's like when I read the script and I knew what we were doing, I was like, okay, how do we pull off the demon? Because at the end of the day, we have all these great movie monsters of Alien and Predator, right? And all these things. And it's like, how do you make something that long lasts, that's kind of iconic? And we came up with the idea of making it Vanta Black, which was cool. And so we did the color scheme of that. And I really wanted to see the goo, right? And the kind of the other world, kind of embryonic fluid that this thing was born in, because it's been in this woman and it's coming out. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff in the ending, yes, the demon's scary, but what's really scary, and Mena can attest to this, I believe, is a woman being invaded that she doesn't give consent. And right. And if you think about this demon is coming out, it wants to go in. When it gets Sarah Gray, and it's or Alexis and stuff, it's basically, I think, a woman's worst fear, right, Mena? I mean, rape and things like that. Like to me, that's what I was thinking about when making this movie. It's like this otherworldly person, not even a person, entity is coming in and it's invading you, and you can't stop it, and there's nothing you can do. That is very scary. Because it's not a person, it's not human, it's this otherworldly, it's this entity. And at the end of the day, it's the fears of the demons in our lives that have manifested into this physical form, and it's going to take you over. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you know why? Because you haven't faced your demons. So now the demons have overcome and taken you. That's what I think was very powerful about this movie.
Terrifying.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're running out of time, so unfortunately, because I could talk to you guys all day about the
That's
movie
great.
and about horror in general. But before I let you guys go, is there any other projects you guys have coming up you'd like to promote, or anything else in general?
Yeah. Oh, I have a film called Breakwater coming out, The Dresden Sun, and Reagan.
I've got a movie called Oak that I'm in post right now, and that's a horror film, and I'm excited about that. So
Awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing everything you guys got coming out. And everyone, make sure you go and check out the Accursed, which is now streaming video on demand. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Oh, you too. Bye.